silent during the acknowledgements. We acknowledge the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are important to the Kaurna people today. And we welcome other First Nations people to our meeting. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to all those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We also consider in our thoughts all those who today are being affected by war around the globe, especially those in Ukraine and the Middle East. We seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. Just some reminders not to use your mobile phones. Wait until I call you to speak according to the cue on my screen in front of me. Make sure you speak directly into your microphone to make sure that everybody can hear, and turn it off when you have finished speaking. Show respect for the speaker without disturbing that person's debate. And when I read out the reports, please listen carefully and press your button if you wish to withdraw the item for debate. Otherwise, as is usual practice, I will seek a mover and then a seconder before calling for a vote. We do have a large agenda with much time required for electing people to positions, a rescission motion and some confidential items. Now to the agenda. We have one apology from Councillor Henschke. Declaration of interest, I will remind you at the time of each of the reports. Confirmation of minutes, I seek a mover. Councillor Cornish, seconded Councillor Jennings. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Adjourned business, we have no public question time. We do have some deputations, or a deputation. I've just got to read out, you did receive an email earlier today that in accordance with Regulation 11.5 of the Local Government Procedures at Meetings, I'm advising the meeting I have refused 2 separate deputations for this meeting. John Bamford has been informed that I have refused their deputation under Code of Practice Procedures at Meetings, in particular clauses 11.8, 11.10 and 11.11. Shirley Lawson has been informed that I've refused their deputation under the Code of Practice Procedures at Meetings, clause 11.11, as it is more appropriate in the first instance to express their viewpoint by writing to Council or Ward Councillors to seek consideration of lighting at Salep Street Reserve in the 2025 to 2026 budget. We do have one deputation this evening. Oh, sorry.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
What was the subject of the other deputation, please?
I can't state it because it was confidential.
Oh, thank you.
I can at some other point in time, perhaps, but not publicly. Now, we have a deputation from Mayor Heather Holmes-Ross from Mitcham. So if you'd like to come to the centre table, please, Mayor Holmes-Ross. Matt will organise the microphone for you. It doesn't matter which seat. And you can explain why you're here.
Okay.
You have 5 minutes from when you start speaking.
Thank you, Mayor Monso. I'm Heather Holmes-Ross. I am the, I'm the Mayor of the City of Mitcham, and I'm standing for the position of President of the LGA, which I believe you're voting on. It's an item you're voting on tonight, which is why I've asked to come and speak to you. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to introduce myself. In 2015, as a small business owner, I started a Shop Local and social inclusion campaign. We had 55 businesses working together to promote the Blackwood area, and I went to my council and I asked for 3 things. I asked for in-principle support, I asked for someone to liaise with to close roads and have markets and those type of things, and I asked for $500. And my council said no, no and no. So I ran for mayor. And my 3 campaign platforms were, firstly, the environment and addressing climate change. Secondly, the economy, so stimulating local businesses and looking for alternative income streams for council. And the third was being a yes council, so having a default position of how can we help you rather than no, that's too risky. And so the major part of my sustainability platform was the idea that Mitcham could become a 100% solar powered city. And briefly, we as a council did the homework to de-risk a solar battery and virtual power plant solution, which is available to residents with no upfront cost. So our residents have saved almost $3 million over the last 2 years, and now Charles Sturt, Unley, Marion, Campbelltown have replicated the program, which is pretty cool and gratifying for me. And I believe that the City of Burnside has looked at something similar. So the next part of our story is our most recent electricity tender for city ops, so that's streetlights, civic buildings, club rooms, the like. So we went to tender with Murray Bridge. We were looking for 100% renewable power, and the outcome of that process was that Murray Bridge is saving about $350,000 a year for the next 10 years by using wind power. And Mitcham's going to spend some money, and we were going to add extra solar infrastructure, and we're set to save about $10 million over the next 10 years, and that's not taking into account CPI increases or increases in the cost of power. Mitcham's also created an exclusive Mitcham-only virtual power plant, and the third part of our plan is to essentially become a power provider. We'll produce more power than we need to fund our city ops from our investment in solar and batteries. On all our council-owned buildings, and our intention to sell this energy through our virtual power plant back to our businesses and residents for half the price that they're currently paying. And in that way, people who can't, for whatever reason, access solar will still get a benefit. And lastly, we've been working with SAPN to trial an EV network on Stobie poles and council light poles, and the plan is that local government would control this network and generate income across the state, so we would all be beneficiaries at council. So how does all this relate to the LGA? I believe that the same things that were important to me when I ran my mayoral campaign are what's most important, or important across the sector. That is financial sustainability, environmental sustainability, and the LGA being a yes organisation. So I think that councils across South Australia are finding awesome solutions, and that the LGA is placed really well to play a significant role in taking those great ideas and rolling them out across the sector. There's also a huge need to facilitate discussions between members with common concerns rather than geographical, as well as being geographical. For example, bushfires, behavioural standards, childcare deserts, water shortages, freight routes, to name a few. And importantly, we can be far more strategic with our R&D fund to investigate new possibilities. So a couple of other fun facts that you might be interested in. Mitcham, as you know, is a medium-sized council. I'm in my second term as mayor, and we're pretty stable. I have the time available and support of my chamber and administration to do the job as president. And lastly, I'm not just running to keep a seat warm. We're living in a time of change, climate change. We have AI, high inflation, housing crisis, skills and worker shortages, and there's work to be done. However, while there are many challenges, there's also opportunities, and as the closest level to government to our communities, we're great at using our knowledge to be creative and innovative, but it's really important that we share our learnings so we don't keep reinventing the wheel. I'm not a member or affiliated with any political party, so I can work with any colour government or politicians. And I'm super keen to lead the sector as we navigate these changing social, political and environmental landscapes. As a neighbouring council, I know many of your issues because they're similar to Mitcham, and I believe that I could really effectively represent your interests. So I ask you to please consider voting for me, and this is really corny, but I'm going to go there anyway. Please consider joining me for the ride. So thank you very much for listening, and happy to take questions if that's appropriate.
Yes, it is appropriate. Is there anyone who has it? Councillor Dawes.
Mayor.
Councillor, just councillor.
Yeah, I'm just a councillor, yeah. Thank you for coming and speaking to us. You're the only one that has, so I do congratulate you there. You mentioned that you're not a member of a political party. Have you been in the past?
I have, yes.
And can I ask which political party?
I've been a member of almost all of them.
All of them?
Almost. But I have never been a member of the Liberal Party. So I've been a member of the Democrats, the Greens and the Labor Party in the past.
Because you were talking about business, environment and so forth, so I can see quite a mix there.
There is quite a mix, and as a small business owner, I feel that I can represent from that end of the spectrum the whole way across.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who wishes to ask a question? If there are no other
you for
questions,
having
thank you very much for coming. Appreciate your efforts to come and talk to the council.
Thank you, Mayor Monso. Thank you, Chamber, for having me. I would love to stay and watch, but I have to go back and chair my own meeting. So,
Yes.
thank you.
Now we will go through the reports, and I will seek someone who wishes to move. A number of them we have to withdraw anyway. First one is one of them. 11.1, who wishes to withdraw it? Councillor Cornish. 11.2, same thing. We need to, Councillor Cornish again. Do you want to do the third one as well?
Oh, sure, why not?
Okay, next is the Community Exchange Hub and Repair Cafe. Councillor Davey.
Thank you.
Australia Day Citizenship and Award Ceremonies. No one's responded, so I seek a mover. Councillor Zing.
Happy to move, Mayor.
Yep, moving. Seconded by? I don't have a... Councillor Jones. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Motion is carried. Division's been called. So those who voted in favour, please stand. So we have Councillor Cornish, Harvey, Zing, Davey, Jones, Dawes, and against we have Councillor Turnbull, Wilkins, Jennings and Hallett. So the motion is carried. Thank you. And we move to the 11.6 Future Living Code. Do I have a mover or do I have someone who wishes to withdraw it for discussion? I seek a mover. Councillor Cornish, seconded by Councillor Jones. All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Council Member Behavioural Support Policy. We have to do this one, don't we? Yeah. So we need to withdraw this one. Councillor Harvey? No, Councillor Dawes seconded Councillor Harvey. So we don't need a seconder now, you're just withdrawing. Oh, no, you don't want to withdraw? All right, I'll do it again. Is someone withdrawing this for a debate or not? No. All right, then Councillor Dawes, you moved it. Councillor Harvey, you seconded it. All those in favour? Against? Carried. No, it's not carried, it's lost. Motion's lost. Next one is the Finance Review, Policy Review. Is there anyone who wishes to withdraw it? If not, I'm looking for a mover. Councillor Zing?
Happy to move it, Mayor.
Moving it. Seconded by Councillor Hallett. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Environment and Infrastructure Policy Review. I seek a mover or with someone who withdraw it. Councillor Hallett. Moving? Moving it. Seconded by Councillor Cornish. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The Finance End of the Month Report for September. Councillor Davey.
Thank you.
Appointment of council members to council committees. Well, obviously we have to withdraw that one. Councillor Cornish. Mayor's Activity Report. CK mover. Councillor Hallett, you're moving. Yes. Seconded Councillor Zing. All those in favour? Against? Carried. CEO Officers Report. CEO's Report, September 2024. Councillor Hallett, are you moving it? Or are you withdrawing it for? Oh, not off. Okay. Councillor Davey, are you withdrawing it?
Withdrawing it, thank you, Mayor.
All right, so we'll now go back to 11.1 on page 5, the BRSI board member recruitment. Councillor Cornish, you can lead the way.
I'll move the parts that we need to before we start asking for nominations.
Yes. Move 1, 2 and 3, 3 and 4?
Sure.
Right, so you're moving 1, 2, 3 and 4. Councillor Dawes, You happy to second 1, 2, 3 and 4?
And can I nominate somebody at the same time or not?
No, we'll wait to do that after. Okay. Just want to move those 4 that don't require debate so much and get those settled. So those in favour of 1, 2, 3 and 4?
I'll speak against it.
Oh, you want to speak against? Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to speak against this because I'm with certainly the emails that Councillor Zing was going today. I think we need to have councillors on the board of this body so that we know what's going on. And we always used to have councillors on this body. The mayor was on, I think, 9.5 years was in her Garrock CV I was reading. Now, we're told that there's conflict of interests, insurmountable conflict of interest problems. I just don't believe it. I cannot, for the life of me, see what possible conflict of interest there can be between being on council and being on the board of a council subsidiary set up to do something that council wants to do. It makes no sense to me. We've clearly managed those conflicts of interest in the past quite happily. So I think we should say no, and if there's spare positions on the board, we should put some of our people on it. So I'll be voting against this motion.
We would have to, of course, change the constitution in order to do that. And did you want to add anything, Mr. Cooper?
Certainly, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the other important thing is to note that this isn't a regional subsidiary. It's a separate entity completely. There were quite a number of issues that were reviewed back in 2020 as to the reasons why it was preferred not to have council members on board. And one of those was to ensure that there was a skills-based board, which is currently in existence. Having spent the morning with them on Saturday, I do think there are opportunities for the communication between the board and for council as its sole member to be improved. And my gut feel from that meeting would be that would be their preference to move forward in partnership with the council, but obviously not my motion. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand Councillor Jones' concerns, and having been on council for a few terms, I recall when we did have elected representatives on the BRSR committee, as we did on the Burnside Hospital committee. But I think my understanding is they were traditional appointments based on the fact that boards weren't comprised at the time of a rich skill set that covered all the prudential management and good governance requirements that we now have. And I think we have more sophisticated boards now. We have better recruitment on the boards, better oversight. I mean, we still oversight the membership of the boards, and we don't have the financial concerns that we used to have in years past. So while I can acknowledge your concerns, I'm comfortable that we can keep an eye on the board and make sure that the terms of reference and their constitution are adhered to, but that we don't actually sit on it, because the legislation has changed in terms of fiduciary responsibilities and that conflict of interest. So I think this is the way to go, even though I recognise those concerns.
I just want to support what Councillor Davey has just said. In Councillor Wilkins and my experience when we first were on the board, it was a very different situation. We did contribute and we were able to bring back issues to discuss here at council. My last 1.5 years that I was on the board, the rules had changed, and I had to be absolutely tight-lipped, was not allowed to bring anything back, any issues of concern at all to the council, because my role as a board member was to keep the business confidential and not to bring anything here. So there is a conflict, and I do support Councillor Davey, and I'm not saying that I don't agree with your perspective, but there are changes to the legislation that made it more difficult, and Councillor Davey is correct about that. Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Councillor Davey, for those comments. I feel the need to speak as one of those people who have been on the board since I first came on to council, representing a retirement village that was in our ward, Eastwood Glenside. I feel really torn between. We managed conflict of interest. We rode through treacherous waters back then. We came out the other side. But I'm not altogether convinced that this is the better way to go. Having listened to some residents' comments from since I've come back onto council, I miss the environment, the actual interaction with constituents in my ward who are in Pineview Village. It is quite unique. And I object to members of the paid members of the aged sector being on the board, because I think they have the conflict of interest, quite frankly, because we run a very special village with 84 units, I think it still is, at Pineview. It is a small village. It was formed by a previous council. It is a great legacy and foresight and wisdom that was shown way back there in the 80s to actually build this complex, and people are always queuing up to put their name down. It has a very solid book of people who want to move into this very connected community village, which is what it should be. I would like to vote with you, Councillor Jones, but I can't on this particular matter. And that's how I feel about it. I think it's the wrong decision. I'd like the legislation changed so that we can go back to having some involvement with it as the ward councillors. Thank you.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. It's probably not quite the right time, but my question is it possible to have better communication with Pineview, maybe by annual reports? Is that a possibility?
Through Madam Mayor, thank you for the question. I absolutely do think there is an opportunity to improve the communication. I was very impressed with the professionalism of the board and the progress they were making in terms of their strategic plan, the latest strategic plan. The one thing that was missing for me, I think, was the fact that I haven't seen that connection between the board and council. And I think absolutely they should come along and give a presentation or a workshop to take the members through the progress they're making on that strategic plan, so you can see the progress and the work that they're doing with the residents. So yes, I'm confident they would be willing to do so as well. Yep.
Councillor Cornish.
A question, if I may, of the administration. Going through this process, is there anything precluding an elected member to put their hand up or apply for one of these roles and then potentially get elected by this council? Obviously, there'd be a conflict there, and if they did get on the board, then it would be managing that conflict where, like the former mayor did, had to not mention any details of it, of the entity, and whenever this council chamber actually discussed that entity, would have to leave the chamber, so it wouldn't influence any decisions in the chamber. Is that a possibility that if an elected member was direly wanting to actually be part of this committee?
Thank you. Through Madam Mayor, yes, technically, a council member could apply. So this is an incorporated association. The board vacancies will be advertised, and council members would absolutely be entitled to apply for any of those positions. Of course, then there would be the conflict of interest, because they are completely separate entities, and you'd have to respect that conflict of interest coming back to council with your council member hat on. So yes.
Councillor Davey, you have another question?
Just a question, thanks, Mayor. Through you, have there actually been any problems reported to the administration or to anyone? I'm not aware of any, but I'm not the local ward member. But I'm just wondering if there are any problems, because I'm not aware of any in the BRSI.
Through the Mayor, apologies, Councillor Davey, could you just qualify the question again for me, please? Thank you.
Have there been any issues?
Operational issues?
Operational, financial issues in any way
Right, okay.
of the board not working effectively? Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'll do my best to answer it. So through Madam Mayor, I'm not aware of any particular issues, but then again, I haven't been close enough with the board. I've recently received their annual reports. The progress that they were talking about on Saturday was very positive in terms of the way that the residents are warming to the approach, the new approach. The board is running very separately from the management team. And whilst there is an opportunity for some education of the residents in terms of the council's role and the board's role, I think they are making a lot of progress. In terms of finance, they seem to have made some significant increases in their cash balances. Whether that's as quickly as they'd like to or whether that's enough is another issue. But I think those questions, it's really important that we encourage that dialogue with BRSI board so that we can ask those questions directly and get the comfort as a council member body that they are doing the right thing and they're moving in the right direction for the benefit of their residents.
Councillor Wilkins, you have a question?
Yes, I do.
I think Councillor Zing's got it.
Oh, sorry. I apologise. I've missed Councillor Zing. You're next.
Thanks, Mayor. I was just going to say, would I be able to move to point 5 and start nominating people, or when should I do that?
We haven't voted on the first 4 items yet. There's still a couple of people who want to speak, want to ask a question. So Councillor Hallett, and then I'll get to your question, Councillor Wilkins.
I've got 2 questions, please. Are there residents, village residents on the board?
The answer is no.
No. And the second question is living in the village restricted to people who have lived in the city of Burnside?
The answer is also no. Now, Councillor Wilkins.
God. Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to the acting CEO, what was on Saturday at Pineview that the ward councillors knew nothing about?
Yes, through Madam Mayor. In my position as acting CEO, I was invited by the board to join them for a meeting to review how they were progressing against their strategic plan. So for my attending, there was obviously a benefit in meeting the individual members of the board, to also become familiar with their strategic plan and also to share the improvements I think we could make collectively together to gain a better understanding of how the board's operating and some of those issues that the residents have and the running of a retirement village. There are challenges and they need to be sustainable going into the future. So I think it's important that we do have a seat at that table. Certainly at my level, I welcome that. And I can see some opportunities for improvement coming back. So it was a touch base with the board, purely looking at their progress against their strategic plan about a year into that process.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak or ask a question? Otherwise, I'd like to go to put the motion, Councillor Cornish. All those in favour? Against? Hang on, I have to do that again. I'll just do that again. Can I have all those in favour? 2, 3, 4. Those against? The motion was carried. Division's been called, so those who voted yay, please stand. Councillors Cornish, Harvey, Hallett, Davey, Dawes and Turnbull. Those against, Councillors Jones, Jennings and Wilkins. Thank you. Motion was carried. Now we go to the item 4, which is the nominations. So, Councillor Cornish?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Wilkins.
Councillor Wilkins, do you accept that?
Absolutely, thank you.
Councillor Dawes?
I wish to nominate Councillor Turnbull.
Do you accept that, Councillor Turnbull? Are there any, councillor Davey?
I was also going to nominate councillor Turnbull.
Councillor Cornish?
I'd also nominate yourself, Your Worship, since you're on the board for so long.
I do accept that nomination. So therefore there are three. So there needs to be an election. And it's not remunerated, so we don't have to leave the room.
Could we put on 3?
Sorry?
Could we put all 3 on?
We could. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, it is.
All right. Are you happy with that as a council? Let all 3 go on that selection panel?
Sure.
Are they there? I don't think they're there, are they? It's only that board. Two members, proposed work group, share.
So, through Madam Mayor, I can confirm that this process is entirely up to council to do. So we can determine how many people we have on the panel. It's completely separate from the rules of BRSI.
Councillor Davey?
I'd like to see, where can we see the terms of reference or the constitution for BRSI, please?
I don't believe this applies to the BRSI because we're not selecting board members. All we're doing is selecting an interviewing panel that will interview the potential board members.
Okay.
Which we did last time, like 2 years ago, I believe. Councillor Turnbull, you were on that committee with me. I don't think that there was just the 2 of us, I believe. Is that correct? Oh, no, and Councillor Lemon, that's right. So there were 3 last time.
Oh, right, so it's not unwieldy.
So it's not unwieldy. No, and I mean, basically there's just the 3 of us and Levi Mitchell, who is the chair of the board, comes and sits, and of course the CEO. Levi comes to sit and provide answers to questions that relate specifically to the board because we're not board members, we don't have that detail in terms of answering any of the people who are being invited to be interviewed. Does that answer your questions? Yep. Right, so we can now move that part of the motion. All right, all those in favour? So what? Sorry, I need a seconder. Councillor Davey, happy to second that?
Yes, yes.
All right, Councillor Davey seconded it, so I'll now put it as a motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Now we move to 11.2, which is on page 13. This is the Gowrock East Regional positions that we need to select 2 of from the 4 that are on page 14. I have been told that I have perceived conflict of interest, and I will leave the chamber at the point of time when you do the voting. Until that time I will remain present, and I will need somebody to take my role for the actual election, for the voting time. Right. So, Councillor Cornish.
I was happy to move to the selection process, the ballot process. So do we move, what, 1 and 2? Or people, they're not in any kind of numerical order. But we're doing a secret ballot, right?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yeah. So do we need to move anything before we do the secret ballot, or are we doing the secret ballot now?
No, I think we go straight to the secret ballot.
Great.
Yes, we write down to...
Yes, so through Madam Mayor, we'll shortly be receiving some ballot papers, and council members are invited to put 2 names, just 2 names, out of the 4 on your ballot paper returns, and then we'll count the votes.
they couldn't do a smaller bit of paper. Can I? Can I nominate Councillor Cornish to take the chair?
Oh, yes.
Well, I just thought to take the chair, to
Yes.
act,
It's only
acting
when we
presiding
get to
member.
the count.
Thank you.
A seconder, please. Councillor Jones? Oh, sorry, Councillor Wilkins has indicated with her hand, so that will be fine. No, you write down two names?
One paper, two names.
Sorry?
Yes, one paper, two names.
One piece of paper with two names.
Double-sided.
You can fit them on one side, or if you want to, you can do double-sided. It'll be up to Mr Cooper to work it out.
Just confirm everyone's happy for Peter to do that.
Yeah. Are you all happy if Councillor Cornish takes over the chair whilst the counting takes place? Thank you. Seconded. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay.
Okay, through the acting presiding member, I will now count the votes that have been received. So 1 vote for Monceau, 1 vote for Hewitson. One vote for Hewitson, 1 vote for Monceau. One vote for Hewitson, 1 vote for Leon Bruno. One vote for Hewitson, 1 vote for Leon Bruno. One vote for Monceau, 1 vote for Hewitson. One vote for Hewitson and 1 vote for Monceau. Can you read that one?
Monceau and Nielsen. They've used first names.
Thank you. Just to confuse me, 1 vote for Monceau and 1 vote for Nelson. One vote for Hewitson, 1 vote for Leon Bruno. One vote for Leon Bruno and 1 vote for Monceau. One vote for Monceau and 1 vote for Leon Bruno. One vote for Monceau, 1 vote for Leon Bruno. And that's it. Okay, so the results of the round, first two past the post are Monceau with 8 votes and Hewitson with 7. Leon Bruno had 6 and Nelson received 1 vote. So we can conclude the resolution.
Thank you. We'll slot in Monceau and Hewitson in the spare spaces in number 2, and I seek a mover of that motion. Councillor Wilkins moves.
Happy to move.
Thank you, and seconder being Councillor Dawes. Any questions, statements, queries? If not, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? That is carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I know that Michael will be very appreciative as well. There's a lot happening in Garrock at the moment that metropolitan mayors are not at all happy with. Not at all. Decisions that were made by the Garrock committee that impact on some changes that metropolitan mayors wanted for the future of Garrock. We're supposed to go to a meeting at the OGM in November, with the influence of the outgoing president of the LGA, they voted to rescind a motion to prevent it from going to the LGA's OGM. So a lot of metropolitan mayors are not very happy people.
So now we're at 11.3, so I presume
Yes.
we're doing a secret ballot again to elect the president?
This time I do not need to leave the room. So we go around, same thing, one name. One name on a piece of paper, assuming it's a different colour. I've got the envelope already marked up with the City of Burnside.
Can we debate who we think is the best person?
Of course you can. I mean, there is nothing to stop you from just putting forward an argument in favour of someone rather than another. If anyone wants to speak, they can. Otherwise, we just go ahead with the secret ballot. We're now one. We just choose one, and this person is what the nomination we're putting, or not nomination, the person we are voting for to be the new president of the local government association. What happens is that every 2 years the position of president changes. One lot of 2 years it is a regional mayor who takes the role, and that is currently the mayor of Kimber. And he finishes in 5 weeks' time, and after that, a metropolitan mayor. And you heard Heather speak this evening. You've seen different information sent to you from other candidates during the period of time leading up to tonight as well.
So through Madam Chair, I'll just read out the 5 candidates. So firstly, you have Lord Mayor Jane Lomax-Smith from the City of Adelaide. You have Mayor Michael Coxon from the City of West Torrens, Mayor Chris Hanna from the City of Marion, Mayor Heather Holmes-Ross from the City of Mitcham, and Mayor Claire Bowen from the City of Port Adelaide Enfield. So on your slips of paper, if you could just put one name, one out of those 5, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
What's in
Through Madam Mayor, I'll now read out the votes. So the first one is for Lomax Smith, Heather Holmes Ross, Lomax Smith, Chris Hanna, Lomax Smith, Chris Hanna, Lomax Smith, Mayor Coxon, Lomax Smith, Holmes Ross, and finally Heather Holmes Ross. Okay, so that concludes the voting, and the winner with 5 votes is Lomax Smith. For information, Heather Holmes Ross came second with 3, and Chris Hanna came third with 2. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
So if we put
Councillor
that
David,
in-
just want to turn your mic off.
Oh, I was just going to move.
Oh, sorry. Okay, you're one step ahead of me. Okay, so you move.
I'm happy
you'll
to move that
Our
yes,
vote goes to.
we elect Jane Lomax Smith for the Local Government Association President,
Right,
and then
and
the whole recommendation.
Councillor Cornish, you're on the list second.
Yeah, I'm happy to second.
Right, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Division's been called. Please stand if you voted in favour. So we have Councillor Cornish, Hallett, Councillor Cornish, Harvey, Hallett, Zing, Davey, Jennings, Wilkins, Dawes and Turnbull, and against Councillor Jones. You got it? Yep, that's a piece of paper. Yeah, I'll do that. You can keep your bits. Yeah, I'll keep this. This one goes in the, this one here. Does it go in that one, ballot paper? Okay.
Yeah, can I just have a query here, Mayor? I'm just, it's a question, because Lomax Smith did not get the majority of votes, and we had more than 3 candidates, and she didn't get the majority, does that mean we have to? What do you mean? I'm just reading on page, what is it, 51, about the secret ballot undertaken. And voting is by first past the post majority vote.
Right, so what happens is I've just put our voting form in an envelope marked City of Burnside. So City of Burnside has the 1 vote, and 1 name is X marks the spot on the form. They all go to the LGA, and the LGA do the counting, and they tick off every council in the state's votes, and the one with the largest number is the president.
No, I was talking about our secret ballot. Our secret ballot on page 51. Have we done it right? That's the question that I have. Do we, therefore, the person with the lowest number of votes, which is Michael Coxon, he drops out, and then we...
Oh, I think that's only if we get ties.
Well, if you can just read it on page 51, and yeah.
Mr. Cooper's the other ballot.
Thank you.
Apparently, Councillor Dawes, you are right, but because we've gone through the whole process, we would have to go through a rescission motion in order to then redo it. So unless there are strong objections, and somebody needs or wants to run a rescission motion, then we would move on to our next item on the agenda.
I'm happy to move a rescission motion.
And we need a seconder. Councillor Jennings wishes to second the rescission motion. Yeah, can you?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You can't do it on the night.
Through Madam Mayor, the rescission requires 7 days' notice, so we can't actually do that this evening.
And I think that would actually take us beyond the deadline for the voting.
Okay.
Yes,
We'll just check the report.
because I think this was the last week to do the votes.
Yep.
Whilst we haven't done the secret ballot process correctly, the council has resolved, and we do have a division, and people did vote.
Can I resolve that we have a vote in accordance with the procedures? We just accept we made a mistake. What's the mistake? We didn't follow
The secret ballot procedure as written, because we were supposed to eliminate the one who got the lowest score, and then we vote again on the next three, and then we keep eliminating until we had one. So that was, when you've got 3 or more ballot people on the list, that's how you're supposed to do it. We didn't do it, we just did who got the highest number of votes. But
if I can,
I don't think
council
so.
members, if I can just clarify the situation. So to cut a long story short, council has made a resolution, and that resolution overrides the ballot procedure. So technically, we didn't do it correctly, but we did make a decision based on first past the post. So that is how council has resolved this evening.
So we will
Yep.
move on.
So yeah,
So
if
we
can
will move
on.
on to 11.4. So we'll move on to 11.4. Okay. And I've got to go back to my first page. That was Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. There is an alternate recommendation.
Did you send it in, Councillor
I
Davey?
certainly have.
Thank you.
Detailed discussions. I think it still hasn't. That's why I wanted it. Great. Could I have someone from the administration read it, please, so I don't lose my speaking time?
Through the Mayor, through the Madam Mayor, I'm happy to read it on this occasion, but what we would like to do and reinforce in line with the meeting procedures is if somebody has an alternate motion, then there is a requirement to read it out. That technically does have to come out of your time for the debate, but the workaround for that is to request a little bit longer with the permission of the floor to actually say what you need to say. So on this occasion, I'll read it out, but yeah, if we could move forward on that basis, that would be appreciated.
Thank you.
So the alternate motion then reads, 1, proceeds to introduce a trial of a monthly repair cafe for repair of small household items, e.g. electronics, ceramics, bikes, toys, clothing, furniture, jewellery, mechanical and general repairs, etc. 2, models the City of Burnside Repair Cafe on that of Unley Council using a self-sustaining model run by volunteers through Sustainable Communities SA who have shown interest in a City of Burnside site. 3, undertakes initial community consultation to promote the service, gauge initial interest, and to determine the size of facility required for the trial. 4, commences the trial in February 2025 with a maximum 24-25 budget impact of 20,000, however, to be offset through budget savings if identified. 5, receives regular reports on the progress in the monthly CO report. And 6, receives a separate report on further opportunities and developments in relation to hard waste interception after discussion with East Waste.
Thank you very much. I've long committed, as many of you know, I've long committed to this concept for a repair cafe. I think we moved, Andy, my ward councillor and I moved this motion 12, 18 months ago. In that time, many other councils across Adelaide, I think 13 are mentioned in the report, have introduced this concept and started to run repair cafes. And I think it's time we got one underway at the City of Burnside, both to support our recycling efforts as part of our sustainability efforts and strategy, and because our community, as requested to me, loves the concept and wants one locally. I've also had some very handy residents and locals with expertise ask me, especially retired tradespeople and arts and crafts people, especially someone I know who repairs ceramics, asked me how they could be involved. I think so many people have seen the TV series on this. They also are keen to pass on their skills, and really they just want to help prevent perfectly useful goods being tossed out, especially when they can be repaired. Everyone has seen the concept and knows it can work, so I don't believe we should waste money on community consultation, although the staff have recommended this as giving us an option for guiding how a system should operate, a repair cafe should operate. And we have a model that works elsewhere, where the SCSA are keen to set up and run a repair cafe in Burnside. So let's get onto it. Source some volunteers, find a location, which I think is possible in Burnside, and trial the concept. I hope you'll support progressing this, as it's been under consideration for way too long. Also, in terms of the community exchange, I think this is a separate issue. It's got a whole lot of valid issues and areas to consider. There are matters progressing in East Waste with their hard solid waste and changes there, I believe, with a special meeting coming up. So I think that issue needs to be considered in consultation with East Waste and their hard rubbish proposals. So hopefully you'll support this tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Zing, you're seconding?
I'm happy to second, Mayor, and I reserve my right.
Councillor Jones?
No surprises for what I'm going to say. We've only just passed a budget not very long ago after an exhaustive process. We're not covering our day-to-day costs as it is, let alone setting any money aside to repay debt. And here we are spending more money. We've been through a budget process where we've culled projects, and now we've got new projects that could have been in that budget process perfectly easily, but weren't approved to spend on in that budget process, being put in by motions now that I cannot support spending more money. The proper thing we should be doing is putting in a budget bid for the 25-26 budget. That's the process. We need to be disciplined and say, much as we might want to do this, I'm sure, very worthy project, we have lots and lots of other very worthy projects, many of which didn't get funded this year because we didn't have enough money to do it. So I'm just pleading with you, show some discipline only 2 or 3 months after we pass the budget, or after Christmas. It's going to be a free-for-all of spending on all our favourite pet projects, and we're going to have to say, oh, look, you know, we said we're going to put rates up by whatever it was, 8.5%. Well, sorry, because we keep spending more money, it's going to be 14% again. So, look, please say no.
Councillor Dawes.
Can I start off with a question through you, Mayor, to the acting CEO? Just point 6 there, it seems to be completely separate. Should that be a motion by itself? I'm just seeking a response from you on that one. And then I want to say a few words. So, do I press the button to just go off?
Through Madam Mayor, it's obviously part of Councillor Davies' alternate motion, so the question should ideally be directed to her in her summing up. Happy for it to be there and included. Yes, it could be a separate motion, but it's part of this motion, so there are no issues for us in terms of meeting that requirement.
Thank you. Well, there's a famous expression from Yes Minister. I'm appalled. You should watch it more often. Again, it's policy on the run. I've seen it so many times where, you know, someone likes something, let's do it now. And again, this has happened. And again, I have to support Councillor Jones. We talked about fiscal discipline only 3 or 4 months ago, I think. And we again have a budget impact on something. And community consultation is mentioned there to promote it, where I believe we need community consultation to decide if we want it. Now, I've seen the one at Campbelltown, it's very well supported, but I do believe the right way around is to undertake the consultation first and see if it's wanted before we go ahead. So I'm with Councillor Jones, I just can't support this, but it's a good idea again for 25-26.
Councillor Davey, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering from the administration what the likely cost is of, bearing in mind point 4, with if there is such a budget impact, and whether we can, that can be neutral in some way, whether we can cost recover with a trial, or how that will work in terms of the wording in the motion.
Certainly, through Madam Mayor, I'd like to direct the question to Mr. Kant.
Through Madam Mayor, it's a difficult question to answer on the fly. As indicated in the report, we've given a very high-level budget analysis of this trial based on similar examples through other councils, but also in our similar examples of running similar projects of a similar scale within the City of Burnside over a number of years. The maximum 24-25 budget impact that's been nominated by Councillor Davey there is looking at the figures provided in the table on the finance table on page 57 and looking at that at a 5-month programme initially. That's how we've come up with those figures. Obviously, we would look to make savings as much as possible. We would look to consultation and time it with the focus. We would look to do opportunities like that. So we would look to minimise the cost to council. But that's a good indication without going through a full business case and without undertaking that initial consultation. That's our best estimate at this stage. There could be opportunities to offset that through the programme, but they may include such ideas as user pays, which I'm not entirely sure is the intention of the programme. But I would want to do a further business case on that to be able to provide you with an actual answer on that.
Councillor Hall.
Like other members have said, I think it's a really worthwhile project, but we did undertake 2 cut projects, and I think the appropriate place to be considering this would be in the next budget as a budget bid. What I would like to know is what would the impact be on rates if it's either 33, we'll say 34,000 or 20,000? What does that mean in regard to percentage of rate increase? And I also note that that the insurance premium from another insurance provider would be required, but that hasn't been costed into here. So, yeah, I agree with what Councillor Jones has said about the budget, and I do have concerns about the insurance and the occupational health and safety risks that we've got with doing some of those repairs, and I'd like to know what the impact would be on the rates if it was, say, 34, or even if it was up to 40,000 a year. What's that mean in percentage of a rate rise?
Through Madam Mayor, if you were to look at the 20,000 estimated budget impact there, that would equate to 0.04% rates. So very small in terms of a rate percentage.
Could you just turn your mic off, please? Councillor Turnbull.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I have a question for, about number 6 there too. I seem to remember, I'm back into a question, sorry. We were told that hard waste was allowed, when hard waste was put out, charities were allowed to come and pick it over before hard waste came and got it. Does this happen? We were told that about 3 years ago.
Through Madam Mayor, I'll refer that to Mr. Kant. Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, I'm not sure about 3 years ago, apologies for that, but this year we actually have a programme that we're working with East Waste, where we're actually setting that up for a not-for-profit and charity. I think Mr. Spearman responded to a question yesterday which included a lot of this information. We're expecting that to start up within the next couple of months, and more information is being provided to Council very shortly on this programme.
Thank you.
Could you turn your microphone? Thank you. Councillor Zing.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a way, like, can I still do a variation, or am I not allowed to because I seconded? Or can I do a variation? Yes or no? No. No? Okay.
Councillor Jen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a very intelligent idea, but the word electronics is terrifying. You have to tag and test toasters, hair dryers, television. This could get out of control, and there is deadly chemicals in some of these televisions and electronic items and computers. I can't support the alternate motion, but I'm looking forward to debating the motion that was put forward to us. Thank you.
Councillor Corn.
Just a question. Was there, in the investigation for this report, were there any other councils that potentially we could co-locate with? Like that was a request in the actual original motion as to whether or not we can tap into another council's program already. Was that something that the other councils were willing to explore? And then I've got another question after this.
Through Madam Mayor, again, I'll refer that through to Mr. Kant.
Through Madam Mayor, if Council refers to paragraph 24, there's 2 area councils that does not have repair cafes currently, and that's Prospect and Town of Walkerville. They've expressed their interest in working with us to set up shared programme space. That could include locations within those councils and also within ours. Or could also include rotational basis.
Thank you. But none of the existing councils would team up I presume that's what that one is.
Can I
That's right.
suggest that the one at, I've been to the one at Norwood, Paine and St Peters, and they would not have the space
Yep.
to double up
I would have
potentially.
imagined that would have been the case.
And Campbelltown might have a lot more space because they do theirs out at their community centre at the Campbelltown Oval, so the room space is bigger.
My second question actually relates to the timing and and how this motion is kind of structured, where it's a trial in February for 24-25. We're not asking to put anything in the 25-26 budget. So is this program only going to run from February to June and that's it? Because we're not actually seeking it to be continued after that fact, because we're not putting in a budget bid, and by the time it's actually been started, it'll be too late to include it in the following budget. So I just are we only asking for this for a four-month trial, and we're not exactly considering keeping it going longer than that?
Through Madam Mayor, in the work that we've done around the 20,000 estimate there, it's based on a 5-month trial, starting in February and finishing in June 25. There was an alternate option if you wanted to look at running a 12-month trial, then the cost is likely to be around 38k impact. And depending on where we are at the end of the financial year, we would have to look at a possible carryover, subject to our counting standards, of course. So what you're seeing up there on the screen is a trial for 5 months.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Davey, you have another question?
Oh yes, thank you, Mayor. The insurance costs have been mentioned as prohibitive, and I acknowledge the issue of electronics is probably fraught with some risks. It is possible, I would imagine, to exclude that, but also could you provide some comment on that? Any other great work health and safety risks, and what insurance premiums would, how they'd be affected, please?
Through Madam Mayor, again, I'll pass that question on to Mr. Kent. Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, I will refer Council's attention to paragraph 25, which discusses some of the issues with insurance. So most of the repair cafes in Adelaide are run by independent local volunteers. They're covered by SCSA's insurance with a small cost of $10 per volunteer per year to join. Some council have provided the grants to the volunteers to cover the registration of the cost of that. We could, through the process of setting it up with the volunteer group when we run through there, we could seek advice from the insurers in particular with respect to high-risk items that we would potentially not include as part of the offering of the trial and the repair cafe. However, that would be something I'd want to take on notice and work with the insurers to work through.
Councillor Wilk.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have actually visited the City of Unley at Black Forest at their repair cafe one Saturday morning several months ago, and certainly the room or the area was quite full with people queuing up and waiting to speak to the volunteers who were doing the repairs on site. There was people having a coffee and something to eat in the corner. I have reservations. I think if we're going to do this, I think in the Focus magazine we should put in a flyer and ask our residents their opinion. Put it in there in something that's already going out to the community. Let's seek their advice. Would they use it? What sort of items would they put in? And why aren't we doing it across councils in the eastern suburbs? Rather than just each one of us duplicating the other. I don't see that that's feasible. And I totally agree with cost. And that's why I think we should do a flyer, put it in the Focus mail out that's going out, and ask residents questions, would they support this? Would they make use of this particular facility? And I agree that there are handymen around. I'm looking for a handyman carpenter, really, at the moment. But I'm not going to support any more money because I want to see pedestrian crossings on Highway 1 for children. So that's my priority, but investigate it and then let's consider it next budget. Thank you.
Councillor Turnbull?
Well, thank you, Mayor. What an excellent idea, Councillor Wilkins. Well done. My question is, noting that you need 500 metres squared, parking and a drive-through, does Council have in mind any other suitable locations, noting that 6A, B and C, bookmark, op shop shed, the shed, may not be suitable? Are there any other locations thought of?
Through Madam Mayor, over to Mr. Kent. Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, I'd just like to provide clarification. There's two separate sections within this report that you're referring to. I think the areas that you were referring to was actually for the first section, which was the exchange hub. The areas for a monthly repair cafe that would be required starts at paragraph 21 on page 55, and that's a space measuring approximately 80 to 100 square metres, tables and chairs for 10 to 12 workstations, PowerPoint cables to accommodate storage required at coffee and refreshments area. If it was a regular area, regular times, we may struggle to find a City of Burnside location to be able to do that. However, if it's a monthly pop-up event, we believe we can find a location within the city.
But Burnside would need that as well, wouldn't they, about that space? Thank you.
Councillor Zing?
Thanks, Mayor. On page 57, there's a table with the costings, the presumed costings. We're looking for one new volunteer coordinator and another FTE 0.2 staff. Surely we have additional staff in the community team that could look after some aspects of this without hiring new staff?
Through Madam Mayor, I can assure all council members we don't have spare FTEs floating around doing nothing. So our FTEs are fully employed and the administration has quite rightly, accurately assessed the resources that will be required for this to do it properly. So I have every faith in the estimates that have been given to you. So the answer is no, we haven't got a spare FTE.
Just while there's no one there, and Councillor Zing, you wanted a right to second. My experience with the Nord one is there's a lot of sewing machines, and there's a lot of problems with extension cords going everywhere. In that one, I know, and it is a confined space, but I'll add nothing more than that. It is a real issue because a lot of the repairing is actually clothing repair. That's what I've observed on my 2 visits to Norwood. Anyway, Councillor Corn.
Another question, if I can, Your Worship, and this is again in relation to how it might go further past the trial. With this motion, obviously we do have the costings that there is an annual ongoing cost of less than $5,000, so $4,370, but obviously that's off the back of $33,000 for a full year of the pop-up trial. This is a 5-month pop-up trial of $20,000. Could it then move into a $4,000 a year costing, or would the administration still require the additional, $14,000 to finish the full 12-month trial before we move on to the annual costs? I'm just trying to work out how that might transition.
Through Madam Mayor, it's, as Mr. Kant said, it is very difficult to estimate the costs at this stage. By that stage, we should have a better indication whether we've been able to do what we're required to do for less than the 20,000, and we'll certainly be able to give council members an idea of how much longer it would, or how much more it would cost to extend that to 12 months. But I think we need to be closer to the time before we can give council an accurate assessment of that.
Councillor Zing, I think you should be taking your opportunity to speak as a second. I have no one else on my screen. Then Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for your contributions. I'll say again, this has been in the pipeline for over 18 months and is part of the equation for our sustainability targets. It's also, as the report outlines on page 59, in terms of social sustainability, it has a lot of benefits for volunteer involvement, which encourages community inclusion, social interaction and improved wellbeing. So it will significantly benefit our older demographic, but also will benefit our younger demographic with environmental benefits as well. A repair cafe can assist residents to gain knowledge and skills, to become more self-sufficient, while also providing opportunities for people to socially interact and build connections with other like-minded members of the community. It would just be so beneficial for such a small investment. As we've seen with issues raised about insurance and work health and safety, if we utilise the services of SCSA, there are minimal insurance risks. Things about cords trailing to machinery and things like that, it's something that's managed constantly in every business. We have it here where we have to manage cords across our floor in our chamber. You know, there are risks certainly that operating machinery and equipment present, but that's not within the wit of council to manage. If we could find a setup and a location to trial this project. While we're watching our expenditure carefully, I believe that we can't cut out all projects. I think we need to be creative, and this is a small, innovative program. I think if to being provocative, if we want to compare, have a look at our legal fees that we just pay out willy-nilly, thousands and thousands and thousands a year. I'm just asking for a small investment, for your support for a small investment to get a really innovative project underway, as many other councils are across the metropolitan area. It's very worthwhile, so hopefully you'll support it. Thank you.
All those in favour? Those against? The motion is lost. I seek someone to now move the original motion. Councillor Hallett, do you wish to speak?
No, I'm moving the original motion.
All right, as it stands, and you don't wish to speak to it?
No.
All right, is there a seconder? Councillor Jones, you happy to second it?
No, I'm speaking against.
Oh, okay. Then Councillor Wilkins, you happy to second the original motion?
I am happy to move the original motion.
Second.
Second.
Second,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Consultation will be in the form of something going out with the Focus magazine to say, residents, do you want to participate? Blah, blah, blah.
Can I suggest, if between the two of you, if you want that, they should add that to the motion as it is here? Sorry? It's going to go into the... Sorry, I'm just getting an indication from Mr Cant. It's going to go into the Focus anyway.
And the Exchange Hub idea as well. They need to know about this out there in the wider community. Thank you.
No? All right. Well, look, I think I'd better... Just the Repair Cafe is going in the Focus.
Yep. All right. But let residents know.
From little things, big things grow. All right. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Jones.
I wish to speak against this motion because it's still spending money that we don't have. And look, undertake consultation to gauge community demand for a repair cafe. If you go out to people and say, would you like a repair cafe? They'll probably say, oh yeah, I would. So what has that proved? We'll say that people want that. If we said, would you like council to mow your lawn every week? People would probably say, oh yeah, I think I would. If you said, would you like council to hand deliver your library books to you and bring you a cup of coffee? People would probably say, yeah, I think I probably would. So there's all kinds of things that people will say, oh, if you're offering, yeah, I'd love for you to do it. But the fact is we need to provide a bundle of services for a reasonable cost. We've set a budget to do that. Let's try and stick to it. And I have to say, what some people have said about other councils doing it is quite right. It's just not that far to drive to Norwood if you want to get Aunt Dahlia's sewing machine repaired, the family heirloom Singer 1900 sewing machine. It's just not that hard. Why don't we just exercise a little bit of restraint and common sense and not spend any more money, I'd say ever, but I probably won't get away with that. So.
Councillor Dawes.
I don't know if it's a statement or a question, but I think Councillor Jones is wrong on this occasion, because we're doing consultation which can come within existing operational budgets. That's on page 57, and there's an estimate of what that could cost. And what we're talking about funding is 25, 26. So unless I've got it wrong, I think that all we're doing here is gauging community demand, first of all, within existing operational budgets.
Anyone else wish to speak? No? If there's no one else wish to speak, I will go back to Councillor Hallett. Do you wish to speak? Right.
I think it is a worthwhile project, and that's why I don't agree this time with Councillor Jones, because I think it does warrant being considered as part of a budget bid process, and then we can prioritise everything when we know what we've got, rather than, I think, as Councillor Dawes might have said, about making decisions on the fly. And it does, the recommendation as it is does include consultation to gauge community demand for a repair cafe, and then subject to the results of the consultation, then it would be considered as part of the budget process, and I think that's fair, and that's where we should be considering it.
Right, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. Now we move 11.6, I think it is. No, 11.10. 11.10, Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I move in accordance with the recommendation. I just had a couple of questions.
Sorry, page 190. Sorry, Councillor Davey.
To the report. And that one is on page 194, and it's about properties in arrears. We've got 6 properties that are in arrears for over 3 years, and I just wondered what, in terms of outstanding rates, and I just wondered what we're doing about this and what the process is from here, please.
Thank you. Through Madam Mayor, I would like to direct that question through to Mr Birch. Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, yeah, we are currently monitoring those 6 properties. I'm aware that 2 of them are commercial properties, and so we may be able to look to seek rental orders or that sort of thing. What we're looking to do is we're just finalising our year-end accounts with our auditors at the moment, and then we'll be bringing a status report to council on those 6, well, on the rates generally, and there'll be a particular focus on the 6 properties. We're considering, given council has never considered exercising the powers of section 184 previously, we may look to hold a workshop before that report so that we can just give you some background as to what the process would be with those particular properties before we bring the report to council.
Just seconding the motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Davey, do you have another question?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. It's in relation to capital projects, page 197. It's in relation to the swimming centre plant renewal, which is described as 21% in progress of its $486,000 budget. And I just wondered if we have moved on from that in terms of getting closer to the, that looked a bit worrying to me, as we're expecting an end, finalisation in about 5 weeks. So I just need a bit of reassurance that we're actually far greater ahead than 21% into the work, the large scope of work. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the Madam Mayor, I'll refer that to Mr. Kent.
Through Madam Mayor, I can give you that assurance, Councillor Davey. This was as of 30th September 2024, and it would have also been subject to invoices and finances paid at that stage. I can assure you we're well on track, and we hope to still exceed the current time frame.
I haven't any.
Sorry, couldn't hear? The last bit again? Yes. Yeah, so we're still on track, and we expect to exceed the current time frame. So we'll provide one other update at that stage.
I haven't anyone else on the screen. Councillor Davey, are you happy for the motion to be put? All those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Now we move to 11.11, page 198. Councillor Cornish, you're going to lead us through this. I think we've got to do one at a time. Yeah. 1 and 2 to start with, I mean.
Happy to, seek the nominations for the Audit and Risk Committee.
Okay. So I'm seeking nominations. Councillor Dawes?
I wish to nominate Councillor Jones.
Councillor Jones, you wish to accept? Sorry? No, thank you. All right, Councillor Harvey?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Davey. Thank you.
Councillor Davey, do you accept? Is there anyone else who wishes to nominate or be nominated? We've only got one at this stage. Councillor Dawes?
I wish to nominate Peter Cornish, Councillor Cornish, sorry.
Councillor Cornish, you willing to accept that?
I won't this time, thank you, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
But while I'd like to nominate you yourself, Your Worship.
If there are no further nominations, I will accept the nomination. But I'll wait and see if there are any further nominations first. Because I intend attending the meetings when I can. Right, anyone else wish to nominate or be nominated, please? At the moment we have one. All right, then I will, sorry, Councillor Hallett.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Dawes.
Councillor Dawes? No? No? All right. I will accept the nomination then for the Audit Committee, unless there's someone else. Sorry, Councillor Zing? You sure? All right. Councillor Dawes? Your microphone's on, that's all.
I know it is, that's true. I might be one step ahead, but we need a proxy as well. Yes. And I'm hoping that Councillor Jones will accept that, but we can't do that until you decide on the first two.
Member? If not, all right, you'd be happy to step in if one of us were not available. All right. Then if you're happy, we fill in the spaces, Mayor Monceau and Councillor Davey, or Councillor Davey and Mayor Monceau for the two council members, and Councillor Jones as the proxy member should, for some reason, one of us be unavailable. Thank you very much. We'll move this one. Councillor Cornish, you're happy? All right, I'll put it to the vote. Oh, sorry, a seconder, Councillor Zing.
Yeah, I'll second, Mayor.
Councillor Zing, all right, seconded. All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. You okay with that one, Bronnie? Okay. Now we move to the next one, which is the Council Assessment Panel. Councillor Zing.
I'm happy to move this, Mayor, and also would like to nominate Councillor Dawes for the Council Assessment Panel.
Councillor Dawes, do you accept that? All right, thank you. Councillor Davey?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Jones to the Council Assessment Panel.
Do you accept that, Councillor Jones? All right. Councillor Cornish?
I'd also like to nominate Councillor Wilkins to that panel.
Right. And since there are now 3, we have to elect one, and then the second one that comes in would be the deputy. Is that correct? So we will have to do a vote on this one.
That's right. But a talk first?
Yes, that's what I was about to go to next. So I will go, as I always do, alphabetically. Oh, sorry, Councillor Wilkins. I didn't ask you if you accept.
No, that's all right, because I won't, but I would prefer to be the proxy member.
Okay, then.
That's fine.
That's
As
okay.
is the case at
We
the
run that
moment.
as a separate election then.
I'm just
okay?
indicating that's why.
All right, so the first thing we do is,
I can manage
yes, so, no, oh yeah, that's right. So there will be a vote between Councillor Dawes and Councillor Jones, and you will put one name on the piece of paper. We will resolve that first, and then we will do the nominations, and we've already received your nomination for a proxy. All right?
Can we speak? Before we... Yes.
One name?
Can we speak?
Oh, yes, we're going to get them to speak. And I will go, as I always do, starting alphabetically, so that's you, Councillor Dawes, first.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I do recommend that if council members have the time to nominate for CAP in the future. It has helped me understand to a greater degree of clarity the new planning laws, and they're still fairly new, and how they affect the various neighbourhood zones of Burnside. I was particularly proud to be a member of the panel the past 3 years when we did save 3 heritage listed homes for demolition. I do see the councillor role on CAP in the context of the planning laws as taking the perspective of a general resident in any development application before the panel. Yeah, look, there are compromises and there are many questions asked of the planning staff in preparation before any CAP meeting. The agenda papers, usually of the order of somewhere between 700 and 1,000 pages per meeting, are long. They're detailed and require site inspections to have a better and true understanding of the development being proposed. I feel I've been able to provide a balanced view on the applications before the panel over these last 3 years. I'm happy to serve for another term.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, colleagues, I've taken an interest in planning and heritage matters for a number of years. I take an active interest in the developments that are going to the CAP in my ward. I make frequent representations to Plan SA, and I've made representations to the CAP. I think where we've got a system where we've got 3 independents and 1 council member, it is important to have someone who is putting forward the view of the residents, and I think I can do that forcefully and effectively to speak up for the residents who are often very, very upset by the decisions that this CAP is making and has been making over this council term and before. And that's why I'm putting myself forward, because I think I can effectively represent those people and will do so. And also I'll come back to you, because I think that's what's lacking, because as normal councillors, we often don't know what's going on in CAP. So I think there is a role for the council member on the CAP to actually report back to you and account for what I'm doing if you elect me. So look, I'll put myself forward and I hope you'll vote for me.
Thank you also. We do need a seconder for this, so whilst we are doing the vote, we need a seconder for this. We can do that after this one's over. Okay, after this ballot, all right. Councillor Davey, you have...
I was just going to second.
Oh, okay. All right. So we'll just do the ballot first.
Okay, Madam Mayor, obviously just one name on
Yes.
your ballot papers. Thank you. So through Madam Mayor, the votes are Councillor Jones. Councillor Jones. Councillor Jones. Councillor Jones. Councillor Dawes. Councillor Dawes. Councillor Dawes. Councillor Jones. Councillor Dawes. Councillor Jones. And finally, Councillor Dawes. So by one vote, Councillor Jones has won the ballot.
So now we go for the proxy position. And the proxy position, we have one nomination, Councillor Wilkins. Councillor Dawes, do you wish to also stand as proxy? No? All right, so we have one nomination unless there are further. Councillor Cornish?
No, I just had a question.
Go ahead.
Oh, if we've got to move a seconder.
Yes,
I presume?
I was told to do that when we finish the ballot, so
Okay,
I'm
well,
just doing this one.
I've got a
and then-
question after the seconder.
Okay. So Councillor Davey, you're seconding?
Yes,
All right,
thank
so
you.
Councillor Davey seconded this motion. And now Councillor Cornish.
Just a question in regards to, there's one development coming up that's quite big in my ward, being the Burnside War Memorial Hospital. We were informed that both Councillor Dawes and Councillor Wilkins were not participating in any of that information to keep them out of a conflict of interest. We've now put in Councillor Jones, well, we're just about to put in Councillor Jones, which I'm perfectly fine with, but he will have to remove himself from CAP on that decision because he's been part of those conversations. Is it possible that Councillor Wilkins can, for that one agenda item on CAP, be the proxy, given that there is no conflict currently with Councillor Wilkins, so that the residents' perspective is listened to at that on that agenda item? Is that something that we can look at?
I've just spoken to Mr Cooper and I don't see that there would be a problem because it would be just no different from if Councillor Jones was unavailable. You know, if he was ill and couldn't come, so the proxy would step in.
I understand
I know
for
you're-
a whole meeting you can
Yes.
be ill and not attend, but
Yes.
can you do that for one agenda
Oh,
item?
for one agenda item.
Well, failing that, I'll apologise for the whole meeting.
Exactly. So through Madam Mayor, we'll check that out. But if that is the case, that would be my recommendation. Yep.
At this stage, we have in those spaces, we've got Councillor Jones as the member and we have Councillor Wilkins as the deputy member, unless there are any other nominations. Failing any other nominations, and wait a minute. Sorry, what was that? Go ahead.
So through yourself, Madam Mayor, so just a reminder that the successful candidate should declare an interest and leave the room when the motion is resolved. Council resolves that motion.
Okay, so
I'll declare a conflict of interest when I think it's an actual.
That's right.
Yep.
It is, and the
yeah,
same
it's
for
remunerated. Okay.
and the same for Councillor Wilkins.
Right.
Yep.
I will declare a conflict of interest as well on
Thank
this
you.
matter. Thank you.
So now I just move this motion that's on the screen at the moment, appointing Councillor Jones as a member and Councillor Wilkins as a deputy member. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now, I'm proposing that we go to the East Waste and Eastern Health Authority next, only because I think we may do those a little quicker with less
Mayor,
debate.
should we do
than
the CEO
previous
review
two.
committee first?
Sorry?
CEO committee?
No, I was going to leave that one and the responsible persons until after. I thought we would just do the East Waste and the Eastern Health Authority first and then come back to those other two. And worst case scenario is we don't actually have to do the CO review committee tonight anyway, although we have got time, so it won't be a problem. Yeah, certainly.
Through Madam Mayor, I've just had some governance advice about the query in terms of attending the CAP meeting when the hospital matter arises. And the confirmation is that Councillor Wilkins, as proxy, you would need to attend the whole meeting for that to take place. So you'd have to be an apology, Councillor Jones. All right. Thank you.
All right.
Can I ask a question? Yes. This is about the CO committee.
No, we're not going to do that right now.
Oh.
We're going to come to that.
I just had a question whether we had formally extended the term.
Yes. Yes, we have. So what I'm going to do, because those two might take a little time, and also if we run out of time, we're going to do the CEO review committee next meeting, if worst comes to worst. But I think if we on a roll with this voting and elections, I thought we could go straight to East Waste and Eastern Health Authority and do those two next. All right. So I'm looking for someone to, Councillor Cornish, you move the whole thing. So you're moving East Waste.
We will go to the East Waste.
So we go to East Waste next.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Dawes for East Waste.
Councillor Dawes?
Or someone's got that.
Councillor Wilkins, you've got your microphone on.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I've
got Councillor Dawes as nominated. And now Councillor Wilkins, who are you nominating?
Councillor Jennings.
Jennings. Okay, so we have Councillor Dawes, did you accept it? No. No, you don't want to do East Waste. Councillor Jennings,
Yes.
you do. All right, that's one nomination. Are there any further nominations for East Waste? No other nominations? If there are no further nominations for East Waste, then I declare Councillor Jennings as appointed. But we do need a deputy. Is there somebody willing to be the deputy?
I'm happy to be Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Zing, all right. Councillor Zing is willing to be the deputy, so if he's accepted, if there are no further nominations, then I will declare, or I'll put those two people's names.
We need a seconder.
We need a seconder. Okay, Councillor Davey, are you seconding?
Thank you,
Okay.
yes.
So we have a seconder for that, so that's Councillor Jennings goes in the first space and Councillor Zing in the second space. Can we do this one as well? No, we just need to resolve this one first.
Let's resolve that one.
Yeah. So all those in favour, no?
No,
What have I done wrong?
they need to declare an interest.
Oh,
for that one
yes,
and go,
yes,
and then-
because there's financial,
right.
yeah. Sorry, I forgot about the financials. I've never been on those ones before. So, declaration, Councillor Jennings.
I guess I'll remove myself.
All right. So you do have a material conflict of interest? No, material. If you receive financial, it's material.
Councillor Zing as well.
And Councillor Zing?
Yep, I'll be exiting the room as well, Mayor,
Right.
for material
Thank you.
conflict.
I have a query. Do we need to record that they've, and like we did like before when for the cap, should we actually record that in the minutes?
The material conflicts of
Yes.
interest? Yes,
And
Yeah.
that
that's
they
correct.
vacated the
Yes,
room.
that will be done.
will be in
That's
the
why
minutes.
why it
Thank
was
you.
corrected
That's why
on
we need
that.
to do that.
Yep. All right, so all those in favour? Against? Carried. Right, you can ask them to come back in, and then we'll do the Eastern Health Authority. Councillor Wilkins.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Cornish and Councillor Dawes for that position. Thank
Councillor
you.
Cornish, do you accept that? Councillor Dawes, do you accept it? I think you find it very interesting. I did it for 8 years. Right, are there any further nominations for Eastern Health Authority? No? All right, then we'll put in those spaces
And I'll
potentially.
declare a
Conflict.
conflict of interest and I'll leave the chamber.
Do you, sorry? Oh, sorry, it's still coming.
I'll declare conflict and leave.
Perceived? Is there a financial?
There is no financial, but I believe we are doing non-financial as well.
Oh, okay, right, thank you. So, and councillor Dawes, non-pecuniary status, it's not financial, it's non-pecuniary. So you would need to leave the room, councillor, or make a declaration as well.
I will also declare non-pecuniary.
Right, thank you, councillor Dawes. So we have in those two spaces, councillors Cornish and Dawes as a council representatives on the Eastern Health Authority. All those in favour?
Have we got a mover and seconder?
Yes, because you seconded.
Oh, right. Yeah, sorry, I'm just really confused. So bloody slow.
You moved?
Yeah, but they didn't move the motion, did you?
No, you nominated. Councillor Cornish was the mover, original mover,
So
and I
I was
thought councillor Davies seconded.
I was just about to. I
Ah,
don't think
okay.
I had.
Okay,
Can you move the motion you're not in the chamber for? Vote on it.
yes, because you can move it before he goes off to vote. It's only for the voting that you have to be gone. Yeah. It's all right? Councillor Cornish can move?
You can't move.
You can't?
If you're not in the chamber,
Oh.
so we need a new mover.
Okay, we need a
and
new
seconder.
mover. Councillor Davey, are you willing to move it?
Absolutely.
And then
yes.
I'm seeking a seconder. Councillor Jones is seconding. All right, so we now have a mover and a councillor Davey, seconder councillor Jones. All those in favour? Against? Carried. It's 10 past and we have enough people sitting around the table. So we now go back to the two that I left out. That is, we go to the CEO Review Committee, appointing two. Now, to make it clear, the current committee that you've already elected of 6 people, they continue through the process until the new CEO is, has been given the position, and then this takes over after that. All right? So use your microphone.
Can I ask a question? When did we actually pass a motion to do that?
At the last meeting.
Did we? Okay.
Yes. At
I
the
must have
special
missed it.
meeting.
The special meeting,
At the
right.
special meeting, right. So now what we are looking for are new members or returning members to be with the mayor for the review committee. So this is where the first 12 months or 6 months, 12 months review of the new CEO will be the first task that they will have to do. So that means they'll be assessing whether they've met their KRAs and their KPIs. All right? And as yet, we do not have a company that we have appointed to do that yet either. All right? So that's where we will be up to, which could be March or April next year, but the decision was to try and to do this decision making now. All right? So I'm looking for nominations. Councillor Jones.
I nominate Councillor Turnbull.
Right, Councillor Turnbull, do you wish to accept that? I've lost my pen. Councillor Zing.
Could I nominate Councillor Cornish?
Councillor Cornish, do you accept it?
I'll be stepping down this time and giving someone else a go.
All right, thank you, Councillor Cornish. Councillor Dawes.
I wish to nominate Councillor Harvey.
Councillor Harvey, do you wish to do it again, Councillor Harvey?
Yes, thank you. Councillor Dawes.
I'll nominate Councillor Dawes if I may.
Councillor Dawes, are you willing to do it again? All right, no Councillor Dawes. Councillor Davey.
I'm happy to nominate myself.
Yourself? Councillor Davey, you're obviously accepting it. Councillor Zing?
Councillor Jennings?
Councillor Jennings, you wish to accept the nomination?
I will politely decline it. Thank you,
All right,
though.
thank you. Are there any further nominations? Now, we needed 3, I believe. So that does not require an election if there are the 3 remaining, those names. So that's Councillor Turnbull, Councillor Harvey and Councillor Davey to be the people who do the part of the review committee along with the mayor.
Can I clarify that you need election?
Sorry?
Can I clarify about your position?
Mayor is automatically as presiding member.
On the CEO Review Committee?
Yes.
Oh, right, thank you. I didn't realise that was automatic.
It states it here, too. It's here and it's in the terms of reference. All right, so I need a mover and a seconder for this. Councillor Dawes, you're moving?
I'll move.
Councillor Jennings, you're seconding?
Second.
Right, all those in favour of the motion as it stands? Sorry? Oh, yes.
Yes.
I don't have to leave because it's automatic. Do they have to leave? Yes, you do have to leave for the vote. Oh my God, what have I got? Right, I shall put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Right, now we move to the Responsible Persons Panel for dealing with behaviour complaints involving the Mayor. I have been told that I do not need to leave for this discussion because it's the position, not the person. So I need a mover And then I need to, would you like to explain it, Mr Cooper? Page 199, same page as we were before.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I might ask Mr Spearman to take us through these appointments. So over to you, Mr Spearman. Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, currently we've got a responsible persons panel for complaints that involve the mayor. So under the Act, under the legislation, what normally happens is if there's a behavioural complaint about a council member, it's the mayor that deals with it. If it involves the mayor, normally you would have a deputy mayor who would then deal with it. As we don't have a deputy mayor, council needs to appoint some other person to be that responsible person to deal with a complaint involving the mayor. So in the past couple of years, to sum up the report, there has been a rotating panel of council members that have dealt with those complaints. Anecdotal feedback is listed in the report, and the recommendation is that instead of having council members on that panel, which you can move an alternate motion to do, it's to appoint a panel of persons that are independent of this council, which could be, we'll do a recruitment process, so it could be legal people, or it could be governance people, HR people, whatever, whoever is best suited. And that settles those, basically just the initial assessments of complaints. So this limits it to those initial assessments where they find out, is it trivial, vexatious, or does it move to mediation, or does it go to a formal investigation? Now, the second part of this motion is different. The second part of the recommendation is about 75G under the Act. So what we currently have is any matters to deal with 75G with the health and safety of a council member is dealt with by the mayor. However, we don't have a person appointed by council as a responsible person under 75G of the Act to deal with health and wellness stuff that might involve the mayor. So the second part of this motion is to appoint someone to that position so that if there is a health and safety issue about the mayor or involving the mayor, then that person can deal with that. The final point under that motion, 5B, is just similar to our behavioural management policy. It's to allow them access to resources, so if they need to get advice about a complex matter, then they can do that through the CEO.
Councillor Wilkins?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Dawes for that particular position. I presume we're having an election. Thank you.
Is that what we're doing? I thought the whole idea was that we're going outside of the council.
So through Madam Mayor, we need a mover and a seconder, obviously, for this part of the report. And we do need recommendations for the appointment of the responsible person for the health and safety matters that involve the mayor. So we do need nominations for that. We're looking for one person. So yes, over to you.
I would like to nominate Councillor Dawes for that particular person. Is a responsible person.
All right, thank you. Councillor Wilkins, Councillor Dawes, do you accept that nomination? Councillor Jones. I will come to you next, I promise.
Yeah, if no one else wants it, I'm happy to put my name forward, but I don't think it needs an election. That's what I'm saying. So if someone else is very keen on being that person, okay, I will withdraw, but I'll stay at the moment.
Councillor Jones, I promised you the next opportunity to speak.
Ask a question. So my understanding is when complaints come in, they first go to the mayor to do the initial investigation.
Unless it involves the mayor.
Unless it involves the mayor. But you would think the bulk of complaints coming in would be decided by the mayor. So we're retaining the mayor to do that part of the job. It's just for the exceptions we're getting for independent people.
Through Madam Mayor, yes, that's correct. So where we've got the responsible person panel set up to deal with those complaints that involve the mayor, what we're proposing in this is that those initial assessments are outsourced.
So my question is, if this is a big burden for those 4 people, surely it would be much more of a burden on the mayor, but the mayor seems to be coping with it reasonably well, or we'd be getting an independent consultant for the mayor's bit.
Through the Mayor, the report contains the rationale why we're recommending that those initial assessments are undertaken by a third party. And that's basically because of the volume of the complaints. If you think potentially we have experienced a few more on that area. No disrespect to any of the responsible persons, but the skill set, some of the skills required to undertake those initial assessments are quite challenging. The other key point is that the way that the responsible person panel is set up at the moment, it can create friction between the council members. Effectively, you could have one council member as a responsible person making a decision about a dispute between 2 others. So again, if you outsource that, you're able to free up the admin resource, which is currently involving Mr. Smearman, and quite a lot of his time is involved on that. You take away the potential for any conflict, and you make sure that you've got the skill sets involved to actually make that initial assessment.
But isn't that no different from the mayor deciding, if somebody makes a complaint against me, the mayor has to decide it, and the same thing would apply, wouldn't it? She's either going to upset me or upset the person who's complained about me. And yeah, we're quite happy with that continuing. So kind of, I don't quite understand why this is such an issue.
Okay, all right. Through the Mayor, I'm happy to talk through the 2 different things here. I'll come back to that. But just to go back to your query, Councillor Jones, we've liaised with the responsible persons that have been in the middle of this over the last few months, and this is in a response to their feedback and some of the issues they've faced. You're quite right insofar as the Mayor is responsible for those complaints that come to her directly, and through our work with the Mayor, the same issues haven't arisen. If that happens in future, then again, we are able to review that process. And certainly if the Mayor requests support in any of those investigations, then we will support her in that. But at the moment, this is responding to 2 things. Firstly, the feedback that we've had from the responsible persons, and secondly, to the admin staff that are impacted by the work that this is creating. So that's why this is being proposed. Just to go back to the 2, if there are any difficulties in terms of understanding the 2 things here. The first one relates to those responsible panels. We're looking to outsource those initial assessments. That takes away all of that work from those responsible persons that we've got currently nominated. The second part of this, or point 5 of the resolution, refers to 75G, which is the new tool that is specifically looking at protecting people's psychological safety. Now, the way the legislation works at the moment, it's only the Mayor and the CEO have the powers to instigate that process. The Mayor on behalf of the council members and the CEO on behalf of the staff. In normal circumstances, if there is a deputy mayor, the deputy mayor would undertake the role of dealing with any 75G concerns if it involved the mayor. So if any council members had any concerns that their psychological safety was being impacted by the mayor, currently there is no ability to set a 75G process in action. So what we're proposing is a responsible person is nominated in place of a deputy mayor, because it has to be a council member, and then that person will be ably assisted by the appropriate resources that are qualified in being able to make those assessments in terms of psychological impacts, which, without not being disrespectful to anyone, we probably aren't qualified in that area ourselves. But we do need to have a responsible person. So they are two quite different things wrapped up in this overall motion. Anyone have any questions? Is that clear? Yep.
Councillor Zing.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, CEO, for that explanation. So just to be crystal clear, the ones we have at the moment, Councillor Hubel, Wilkins, Cornish, and I think there's one other that's on the panel now, they're the 4 that's been replaced by the lawyers.
That's correct, with the exception of Councillor Cornish, who has formally resigned as a responsible person.
It's not necessarily lawyers, it's other people who are independent of this council. Some, I learned at a recent mayor's meeting that some councils actually do, and we can't do that at this stage, but some councils right from the beginning decided to have one council do the complaints of another council and vice versa, which has its good points and its bad points. The bad points are that the same problems exist, and that is that the people who are trying to do the reports aren't equipped enough to have the knowledge of how to write these reports and compose these reports, which means it falls back onto the staff member in the council. And I know that Mr. Spearman has been very, very heavily engaged with lots of work, and which takes him away from the work that he should be doing as corporate director. And what our acting CEO has proposed, by keeping to only 2 directors instead of 3, will considerably save any money. We hope there won't be too many more complaints, and particularly I hope not too many revolving the mayor. But there does need to be some sort of backup or support for any decisions or anything that happens in the future that relates specifically to the mayor or in relation to health and safety matters, those 2 different items. Councillor Davey.
Thank you. Thank you very much for all the explanations, and to the CEO. In relation to part 1, is there any reason why we couldn't have responsible persons, 4 suitably qualified, independent, to manage complaints involving the mayor and CMs on a rotational basis? Because I don't see it's any different. Because I think your suggestion is great, that we outsource it all to the experts. Why can't we do that to the mayor and and for any complaints involving CMs?
Through Madam Mayor, that's really a decision of Madam Mayor. At the moment, I've had that discussion with her, and she's quite happy to continue to receive the initial complaints, as a presiding member. So we're not seeing the same issues that have been highlighted for the responsible persons that we have with the mayor at the moment. But that's not to say it might change in the future, depending on what Madam Mayor wants to do.
They have been quite straightforward in terms of the initial issues. Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. We're good? All good? Are we? Okay. Now, with regard to 1, 2, 3 and 4, I'm really happy that this alternative for the responsible persons panel has been devised. I think it has been an issue, a big issue. No organisation should have one group of people sitting in judgment of their colleagues, and that's what's happened. It's a flawed system, divisive, nasty, and certainly not promoting collegiality, as we all know. This is one case where the money spent will be worthwhile. And I'd actually like to see it in number 5, 75G as well, if it's at all possible, to have an independent consultant, not one of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jennings. Just on your very last query, we have to have a council member as the responsible person. We don't have an alternate. So unfortunately, we can't engage or appoint a responsible person that's not a council member.
Okay.
But point B, 5B, makes it clear that the CEO would have the authorisation to engage the appropriate consultant to assist in that investigation. So what that means is someone that would be qualified to be able to make an assessment whether there is psychological impact involved in that complaint.
So just one last question. Does the CEO make that decision, or the CEO and the Mayor combined? Or the Mayor by herself? Who makes the decision?
No, there's no decision made. It's a process. The CEO will start a process with the responsible person. So the responsible person will receive the complaint. The CEO will, through that complaint, commence a process with a consultant to provide the support to the responsible person to adequately assess that complaint.
Can I also add, Councillor Turnbull, at the recent Mayor's Forum, it was very clear that really none of the councils, at least only the metros that we met, are not happy with the legislation as it's been created, and that there are flaws in it. And the biggest problem is, you know, the councillors actually working, and it is divisive, and other councils have found it divisive as well, with having the panels from internal. And the metro mayors are trying to work with, and we actually met with the director, Alex Hart, who's the director of the behaviour panel, and talked through a lot of these issues with her at the recent Mayor's Forum. So it has been made quite clear to the Behaviour Standards Panel that this is not working across the board, but we are stuck with it until the government, through that panel, makes decisions, makes changes to the legislation. Yeah, one more.
So one final clarification. So in terms of the 75G process, I just want to clarify that it is the responsible person's decision, but that would be based upon the advice received from the expert that would be appointed by the CEO. Okay? So the responsible person can't delegate that responsibility to make the decision, but they will be supported in the process.
Councillor Zing.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm sure on page 199.1 might be concerning for Councillor Jones, so I'll ask this on his behalf. I note the wording procurement process, which indicate cost. So could CEO provide a cost for these people?
Certainly, through Madam Mayor. The initial rationale behind the responsible person panel was to avoid legal costs, avoid these things going to lawyers, okay? Which was refreshing, but in hindsight, hindsight's a perfect thing. It hasn't quite worked out that way for the reasons stated. So to do what we're proposing here, to get a responsible person recruited, whether that's a governance expert, HR expert, or a lawyer, we anticipate the cost will be about $3,000 per investigation, okay? Now that will be offset by the savings in admin resource times, your times in terms of responsible people involved in these investigations. So there will be a cost. There's also the hope that that as a cost will act as a little deterrent to reduce the numbers of complaints that are coming forward. It's a factor that I think everyone needs to consider, okay? In terms of the cost of the 75G support, that's a little bit harder to estimate. Our thinking of is if it was a really clear case that somebody's psychological health was being impacted, then the cost could be around $2,000. But if it was involved a greater investigation, perhaps the behaviours were a little bit more subtle, then the cost could rise. But that's a bit of an unknown.
Councillor Haller.
Thank you. In regard to having a panel of 4 suitably qualified independent consultants, I just heard acting CEO say that it would probably cost about $3,000 per investigation. Does it cost anything to actually have a panel of four, like in recruiting a panel of four? Like, do you have to pay them some sort of holding fee for a 12-month period, or you just ask people to apply and then you keep them and you contract them as required?
Through Madam Mayor, there's no cost to the actual panel other than admin resources to actually do that procurement process. But no retainers would be involved. It's simply you would call upon the next panel member when the occasion arose, and obviously be billed for the work that's done. So through the procurement process, there would be some assessment in terms of their costs, but yeah, no actual costs incurred in the actual process.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. I have another question. Is there a possibility for our council to provide feedback to the Minister of Local Government that this has been a bomber, hasn't worked? Bomber, or another word.
Can I say that the mayors have been trying to do that? They're not in, the minister's not particularly interested.
Does that
hence
mean...
us going through through Alex Hart, who's the director involved in organising all of this.
But if a letter goes in, surely he's got to read it eventually. And also,
people don't want to know, basically people don't want to know about it. They just are not handling the situation, and we are not alone in this, I can tell you that. Many other councils.
Yeah, we'll pass a motion.
You can write, but...
We'll pass a motion, it's all right.
Anyway, yes,
and
let's
also,
finish
just
this
another
first.
comment, we save money on using the Regal Theatre for the citizenship ceremony, so we can use that money for our investigations if we need them. Win-win.
Councillor Cornet.
Just a query, and it is cost related. Whoever the responsible person is, obviously this council's chosen not to appoint a deputy mayor, which would have saved this council a lot of grief in the last couple of years by doing so, and at least that person would have been actually remunerated a little higher to actually undertaking those additional duties and responsibilities. I wondered whether or not a fee for each assessment, like we're paying an individual, but whether or not an elected member, whoever gets appointed as the responsible person, should actually receive a fee as well on top of it, because it is a lot of work to do these reports. So it's just a consideration. I agree with Councillor Turnbull. I agree with the Mayor that the government is not going to do a thing about it, because they've been able to sweep this issue under the rug, and it's not a massive issue because the legal fees are down across the board. And that's all good for local government, but it's not great for the relationships within councils. I can completely see that this stalemate is going to continue for years. So, and barring any legislative change, we have to try and make it fit as best as we can. And how do we do that? Anyway.
Councillor Hallett.
Is it feasible and is it possible that if you wanted to make a complaint, behaviour complaint, that you would be, like if you wanted to do a freedom of information application, that you would have to pay a fee to progress that, which might be reimbursed. And because I think that would discourage frivolous and vexatious complaints. And so if you want to make a complaint, well then you actually have to put up some of the costs of covering it. And I agree with Peter that I think that the responsible person who undertakes the review should get paid. It's a lot of work, and it's not something. It's not the sort of report that you can just chuck out in an hour. It takes a lot of thought and time. So yeah, I think we should be looking at the elected members have to. If you want to make a report, we'll put your money where your mouth is.
Through Madam Mayor, thank you for both of your contributions. Unfortunately, the Act doesn't allow us to do either of those things. We are limited in terms of we pay council members an allowance and can't pay you any more than that. And as you're probably aware, those council members that volunteer their time on our committees cap, as Councillor Dawes will know, considerable hours are spent on those. And that's all done within your current allowances. So we do appreciate that, but, sorry, not cap, sorry, that was a bad example. But if you think about our Audit and Risk Committee and all the papers for that, we've got a meeting tomorrow night. So unfortunately, that's not possible. On the other side, it could act as a deterrent if you were to expect the complainees to actually pay for those complaints. It would actually potentially put a barrier there to prevent people from doing that. So that's again something we wouldn't encourage to do.
Couldn't do that with the public.
No, that's right. Councillor Jones?
Can I speak to the motion?
Yes.
I'm happy with point 5.
Apologies, we actually need a mover and a seconder.
No,
Thank you. No,
No, we don't have a mover.
we haven't got a mover and a seconder.
Wilkins, are you moving it?
I am moving 5, Point 5, page 199, under pursuant to section 75G, I did initially say that I want to suggest that Councillor Dawes is the appointee as a responsible person for health and safety matters involving the Mayor. Thank you.
Look, I appreciate what you're saying, but we've got a motion as all in one, that is 1 through to 5. So we have to move the whole thing.
We can still put Councillor Dawes in the...
We can still put Councillor Dawes
Okay.
in that space.
Can't Councillor Wilkins move any motion? We change motions all the time.
Through Madam Mayor, yes, you're absolutely correct. In this case, I thought we were clear at the start that we would, although there's some debating going on, we do need to move 1 to 5. So
Okay.
that's what we're looking to do.
I'll move 1 to 5.
Okay.
if you're happy
And
to
you'd
say,
like
thank
to
you.
put Councillor Dawes' name
In that vacant
in
space 5A.
Right. Thank you. I need a seconder. Councillor Cornish. Thank you. Right, so we've got a mover, we've got a seconder. Is it now, Councillor Jones, if you could speak?
And now, look, I'm happy with point 5. I think there is a logical flaw with 1 to 4. Now, I have never made a complaint against anyone for the avoidance of doubt, but there's a flaw, because if I make a complaint against Councillor Zing, the Mayor rules on it, and she needs Mr Spearman's help, and she runs the risk she's going to upset one of us. But we're happy to continue with that. But what we're saying is if I make a complaint about the Mayor, it won't go to another councillor, it'll go to an independent person. So I think if we're going to go down the independent route, we should do it for all complaints. That is the logical position, because then it just removes this invidious position from everyone on council, including the presiding member. So if we think it's a burden for the 4 people we've appointed as the sort of backups, then it's surely an intolerable burden for the presiding member as well. So if we're going to do one, we should do both. That just seems to me the logical position. It's probably, I think there's more than a variation, because it's completely changing the motion.
Yeah, through Madam Mayor, it's a voting against, so if this one doesn't get up, then an alternate motion could be moved.
Am I next to speak? I entirely agree with Councillor Jones, and I wish to make a variation and just test it out, that at 2, complaints involving the Mayor, and then we add and council members. To request the CEO to facilitate engagement of an appropriate services provider. Is that coming up? Oh, I mustn't ask the question. So it's at 2 that we add, manage complaints involving the mayor and council members, because on that basis, it's fair for everybody, it is equitable in terms of resources used, and that we outsource it all as soon as possible to progress to a formal investigation, to assess the complaints for a formal investigation. Have we got that up? Is that up possible? I want it on the record, thanks.
So you probably have to change 1 as well.
It's just,
So you've done 2,
right,
but in 1.
okay,
it
and the
only
mix,
refers to
okay,
the
thank you.
mayor, so you need to put
Involving the
council
mayor
members.
and council members on a rotational basis. Sorry, I couldn't see one. So that way, while we're adjusting this, so that way, I think it's far more equitable. It's already been mentioned a few times. God knows what the costs will be, but as we look at our legal expenditure anyway, for complaints, codes of conduct.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. I've just checked with governance. It is a little bit more than a variation. So again, our recommendation would be that you speak against the current motion, and this goes up as an alternate with those council members added into 1 and 2.
Is there anyone else who wishes to debate the current motion? Councillor Zing.
I wish to move the motion be put.
All right, the motion is now... Sorry? We did. Councillor Davey put a hand up. We were just checking to make sure it was okay. Yeah. All right, I'll put the motion. Those...
Yes, you can second.
For a point of order.
For a motion
Just,
to be put.
yeah, just double checking.
Through Madam Mayor, just for clarity there, a person that has spoken to the motion can second a formal motion.
Yes, thank you. All right, so now I'll put the motion. All those in favour of the motion as it stands? Sorry, that the motion be put. Apologies. All those in favour? Right, the motion is now put. Sorry, against? Right, now I will put the motion, because it has been carried that I should do that. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour of the motion? Those against? Right, the motion is carried as it stands. Division has been called, so those who voted in favour, please stand. Councillor Cornish, Harvey, Zing, Jennings, Wilkins and Dawes. Those against? Councillor Turnbull, Jones, Hallett and Davey. Thank you, I think you can sit. Now we move to Councillor Davey, 1113, page 217.
Thank you, Mayor. I move in accordance with the officer's recommendation. And I just had a couple of questions in terms of content. One relates to when we are going to undertake our services review, as we outlined in the budget. I've heard there's action for this, but I don't have any timelines for when we're going to start our services review for managing, as I said, as we requested in the budget. And then I have a second question, if I may.
Through Madam Mayor, I'd like to pass that through to Mr. Spearman to respond. Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, thank you for the question. The answer to that is it's underway. It's already begun. What's happening at the moment is that the leadership team is catching up and working through what those services are, because the very first step is identifying our services. As you'll recall, during the budget process, we had 119 services, some of them not necessarily community-orientated services, and so we just need to fine-tune those first, identify the services, and then begin the internal costing exercise. One addition that we're going to be adding to the CEO monthly report is a table that will speak to all CEO KPIs with a status in there going forward, so that way you'll have that information and publicly.
Could I have a follow-up question?
Yes.
Thank you. But when will the elected body have an opportunity to provide input to the review of services?
Councillor Davey said the review of services.
Through Madam Mayor, we estimate that it'll take probably a couple of months in order for us to organise this, and then we'd like to have this in place and ready for that in time for the budget process.
So when will that involve us in reviewing the services? I think it's entirely reasonable that we have an opportunity to review the services before they come to the budget process. Is that what's intended?
Yeah, yes, certainly. Thank you. Through Madam Mayor, my intention would be absolutely to bring that to council members, probably in a workshop early in the new year, to take you through the process and the outcomes of that review, to gauge your feedback, because it will be important information. It will be provide a level of transparency that we haven't seen for quite some time, and it will be very informative going into the budget, particularly around some of those discretionary services. So I think it's necessary that we spend some time and take you through that in a workshop, and then we'll decide on the next steps after that.
Councillor Zing.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to say I was happy to second the motion, but I did have a question about when we, especially in Kensington Park Ward, between Councillor Davey and myself, would see the traffic consultation results for Beulah Park.
Through Madam Mayor, pass that one over to Mr. Kent. Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, I will have to take that one on notice. I am aware that both of you have been sent the indicative timeframes. I will have to find that information. I'll take it on notice, and I'm happy to reshare that again in the morning.
Councillor Davey, you have another question?
Yes, just another question. Thanks, Mayor. Through you to the administration. With the Kensington Gardens Reserve Club Room redevelopment, I haven't seen yet any development assessment applications. Can I be advised when there's a timeline for that, when they're likely to be processed for or put out for that process?
Through Madam Mayor, again, Mr. Kent, thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, I'm aware that the submission has been lodged, so it's currently with our planning team that is assessing it. I understand that there's further questions being asked and an invoice has been raised. So once that process has been undertaken, the assessment process will commence. I'm happy to provide an update in the next CEO report once that progresses.
Are there any further questions? Otherwise, I will go back to Councillor Davey. Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Just point out as a reminder that this Sunday is the open day at Kensington Club. So for those who are interested in coming along. Now, and that is Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. Now,
page 235.
Colleagues, I was not on the ball sufficiently last council meeting to withdraw this motion, and I tried to do it, and Councillor Henschke had already moved the motion. Era Water Charter, what I'm particularly concerned about is a change to the charter to allow the board to operate outside council areas without the permission of council. Now, Era Water has a pretty infamous history of not adhering to its charter and getting council's permission to operate outside council areas. So, for example, the board decided to pay $1 million for a disused leaky pipe running down North East Road from Hope Valley Reservoir that is sitting there doing nothing for Era Water or for council. They agreed to sell water to Campbelltown Council, who wisely decided to stay out of Era Water, but they decided to sell water to Campbelltown Council at a lower cost than they charged Burnside Council for water, again, without getting council's permission. So you can see why I'm kind of unhappy about some of the decisions they've taken in the past. And under the charter, they shouldn't have taken those decisions. And partly because of pressure from people like me, they've been taking their charter obligations more seriously. As part of the charter review, they decided they didn't like this pesky rule that they needed our permission, and they tried to get rid of it. And this council said, no, not happening on our watch, thanks very much. So they came back with a slightly watered down position that they'd only have to get our approval to operate outside council areas over a certain dollar value. And in my view, that is still not good enough, because we could be outvoted on the board, and they could go and buy another $1 million leaky pipeline to nowhere. And it's just not good enough. And look, we have our representative on the board, but he's one person and can be outvoted. And so, look, I moved the rescission motion for that reason. What I'm proposing, I hope you'll vote to rescind, and then a subsequent council meeting, we can have a proper debate on the revised charter, because obviously you don't have the papers in front of you. So I don't think it would be a wise decision for us to say, no, we don't accept the charter. But I think we should say, no, we'll withdraw our approval and have a proper debate when everyone's got the papers in front of them and has had a fresh chance to read the papers. So that's all I'm asking for. I think it's good. It's good governance. Era Water has kind of got on track of late. It's improving, but we need to be watchful that it doesn't slip into previous ways. So I hope you support the motion.
Councillor Jones, you will have to change item 2 to what you are intending, because at the moment that is not what you have just spoken about.
Is that the motion that I put forward?
No, that was the original motion that you're rescinding, I believe. Is that right?
What was the motion I put forward on the...
Sorry, it's coming. There is a real problem with the drought, though.
But if there's a drought, it's not going to anyone.
I know. We've got the lowest reservoir ever, 53% in the winter. 53% our reservoirs are running out now. It's shocking. Oh, and the south too.
Through Madam Mayor, the way the motion is currently written is confusing, sorry. So there's actually just the one line, which basically says rescinds the motion, item 11.11 of the 17th of September 2024 council meeting. Take out the 2, because the next part is basically what's being rescinded.
Yes.
So it's just rescinding it.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's what was there.
Yeah, it's just the way that, it's come up on there.
Remove number 2.
Remove number 2. You've got your semicolon in there, so that's fine. Yep.
So I seek a seconder. Councillor Turnbull.
Yeah, I'll second it.
You're seconding that?
Thank you.
All right. do you wish to speak now or withhold? Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this? I have no one on the screen, either for or against. Councillor Cornish?
So just going back to the actual charter amendments, so it is a volume of 20 megalitres that is the actual threshold where they would have to come to a constituent council. Can I get an indication of like how much sort of like 20 megalitres, like what sort of park, how much does Kensington Gardens Reserve use annually? Or how much does Hazelwood Park use annually? Is it 20 megalitres?
Yeah, through Madam Mayor, we'll have to take that on notice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions that people might have? Because Mr. Cant's going to see if he can find the answer to that. Anyone who wishes to speak or ask any further questions? Yes. Yes, Di. Yeah, Di. No. No, it was Jenny Turnbull, yeah. No, just making sure, you seconded it, yeah. But she hasn't spoken yet, yeah. Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand. I think we used 200 and something megalitres, Burnside Council. 200 and 100. Oh, but perhaps all councils might be 200. Just trying to think, and they thought 20 was about right. But I just want Councillor Jones to respond at the end as to whether the audit committee of which he is on, did they have any input into this, or was it just totally at the board level? I thought the Audit and Risk Committee would have been asked their view, but I don't know.
When you're summing up, you might be able to answer that question, Mr. Councillor Jones. I'm just particularly concerned at the moment because this year's a drought year. It's been declared a drought, and our reservoirs are only at 53% capacity, against last year at this time 74% capacity, which is pretty concerning for more than just the farmers down in the southeast and the mid-north, and the southeast too. It was 76% this time last year, and now it's 52% capacity.
I do have another question while we
Okay,
wait.
yes, certainly.
I apologise. It's more about, in terms of governance, not knowing when Councillor Jones submitted his rescission request. Had we notified Irrawater of our approval prior or before, or is it still pending?
Through Madam Mayor, because we knew that a rescission was there, no, we've held back, so we haven't approved that yet.
Brilliant, thank you.
Councillor did let us know that he was intending to on the night, and then we did receive it fairly quickly after that.
I've just heard back from Mr. Kent, and we will need to take that on notice. The 100 megalitres is what we use at Burnside for the city of Burnside across all of our reserves, but we probably use the same again on top of that, but we will confirm that tomorrow.
Is there anyone else who wishes to ask a question or make a comment at this point? Councillor Turnbull, you seconded the motion. Did you wish to speak? Then I will need to go back to Councillor Jones.
Look, first thing, Councillor Dawes, I can't actually answer your question. I'd need to go back and check my records about what I said about the charter changes, so I'll have to take that on notice as well, if that's all right, to go with the others. I won't say any more. I hope you'll support the motion.
Right, I'll put the motion. Those in favour of the rescission? Those against? All right, then the motion is carried, and that means the motion is rescinded. Division has been called. So those who voted for, please stand. I'll start with Councillor Harvey, Councillor Hallett, Councillor Zing, Councillor Davey, Councillor Jones, Councillor Jennings, Councillor Wilkins and Councillor Turnbull. Those against, Councillor Dawes and Councillor Cornish. Thank you. Need to move to confidential items, and I'll ask Councillor Cornish, as he usually does it so well. Would you like to move that we move into confidential mode, please?
Sure, I'll move.
And seconded by Councillor Zing. And whilst we wait, and then we'll get a vote on that, please, for move into confidential. Everyone agreed? Thank you very much.